Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Eden Zero Chapter 58. And yeah, with this one, this is going to be another chapter like last week, where you guys are going to get just pretty much raw and pretty much unfiltered and raw review of this chapter. It was another chapter where lately Eden Zero has been on a bit of a roll, to the point where this is like the second week where Eden Zero has been on a bit of a roll, to the point where I say, okay, I can't even write down any notes to this. I just have to give my raw, unfiltered reaction. And let's start off with pretty much with the meeting of Homura with obviously this episode was this chapter was mostly a flashback of showing us how Valkyrie had pretty much found Kurenai, and one thing right off the bat that kind of clicked with me is that I really have to give Mashima a little bit of credit for tackling something like the sex trade when it comes to slavery. I mean, obviously because because Eden Zero is a shonen, he really can't show anything graphic or anything, but even just the fact of him alluding to it is pretty impressive in itself. Now, obviously, there have been other times where this illusion has probably been done better in shonen. Like I think One Piece, believe it or not, I think is in some ways has done it better. But I just pretty much just pretty much giving us pretty much idea of pretty much what led Kurenai into being like enslaved into the sex trade and whatnot. I'm not gonna claim I know or anything, but in most cases I've heard of of sex trafficking and whatnot. Money is kind of the reason why. So it's, in some respects, money in most cases is kind of the reason why, from what I've heard. So it's I gotta give him credit for just for portraying something in those realistic terms almost. Now let's talk about the meeting itself between Kurenai and Valkyrie, because it's really one of those cases where basically in every sense of the word, Valkyrie's intentions were good. She wanted to reunite Homura with Kurenai, her mother, but in a lot of I think in a lot of ways where Valkyrie had miscalculated or didn't even account for the fact that pretty much Kurenai's extremely weak mental state, and just resolve, would have inevitably turned against her, would have inevitably backfired on her. Everything that Prince Valkyrie was trying to do in order to help Kurenai, again, all good intentions, but in the end, with her being in that weak state, it also opened the door in order for her to be just as easily just as easily relapse and just fully embrace her tendencies again. In fact, even taking it a little further, it's in fact what had happened essentially here is that pretty much is that by offering her all this help, she inevitably ended up placing Kurenai on an even darker path, because it pretty much it gave her the means by which to relapse back into her greedy gambling tendencies, but also it also inadvertently also set Kurenai on this path of revenge against the Baron. Against the Baron who enslaved her, and by taking revenge, it inevitably consumed her and pretty much made her into this into even more of a power hungry dictator than the Baron probably was. So yeah, it's interesting to see how all these good intentions that Valkyrie had in helping her and I ended up creating the monster that ended up creating the vicious monster that Her and I has become now. So yeah, and now obviously the one thing to talk about too with this is the fact that Valkyrie is dead. Like pretty much Valkyrie's just straight up dead. Like pretty much nothing. Like pretty much nothing there that said. Yeah, pretty much. Like the flashback, it was all just, it gave us details of leading up to the reveal that Valkyrie is dead, and it was one of the more, it was definitely one of the more emotional parts of the chapter, because it's what makes it so endearing and just so heartfelt is that it really just shows that in her final moments, even fighting off Kurenai's forces, and even fighting off Kurenai's pretty much from the stone creatures and whatnot, she in the end thought about Homura. Like Homura is the closest thing to family, that is the closest thing outside of the other starshines that pretty much Valkyrie had to family. So in the end, because they had spent so much time together, she inevitably just she just couldn't help but think about her in her final moments, and yeah, which now in terms of the death itself, I really okay. Like don't get me wrong, the death in itself very emotional and very well executed and handled. But I do have to admit there are some things in this chapter that pretty much make me think that this death isn't going to be long lasting. Well, and the first off, the first thing to note obviously is that when we pretty much see, and what gives me this clue obviously is that first off the pretty much cover page where we see that little blurb of him saying the ultimate team revealed, where Mashima just gives the subtitle of the ultimate team that's been reunited or something. Like he basically shows all the starshines together. So that in itself does kind of say to me already that this death isn't going to be permanent. But even more than that, how I'm thinking this is gonna, the thing to note right off the bat when it comes to pretty much seeing Valkyrie's dead lifeless mechanical corpse there. Yeah, I know, weird thing to throw around, but yeah. The one thing to note with Valkyrie's corpse is that when you look at her eye, it looks like a very clear indication that she's that she's obviously pretty much lost her life or lost everything that kept her going as a machine. The life force that kept her going as a machine. But in a way, this could also be in a way interpreted as her being offline of sorts, and I feel. And the way I'm interpreting this right now is that what's going to happen here is that obviously we see that pretty much Homura has kept one of Valkyrie's swords with her. I think that sword is going to inevitably be something that will, I don't know about restore her body or restore her body and her mind. But I think it is at the very least, it is going to restore her. It is going to restore her mind. It is going to bring her back from death. It is going to bring her mind and her memories and everything back from death. I think that right now is the route I'm going with. That pretty much Kurenai, that pretty much Valkyrie is going to be restored through pretty much Homer plunging the sword into Valkyrie's body and restoring her by that means. And the other, although the other thing I'm keeping in mind too, and this is something that from Jakine that someone commented about on one of my previous videos, is the possibility of Homer becoming the new Valkyrie. And in a way, I can see that happening too. Although it'll be, in a way, I can see that happening too. But I don't know if if Mashima would be willing in order to give up on, in order to give Homura as a character yet. I don't think so, because I think there's a little bit of development that I think that still could be achieved with that. So yeah, as it stands, I'm kind of going with the theory that Homura is going to use the sword that Valkyrie gave her in order to restore her, I think. And of course the other thing to take into note too is that obviously even before Kurenai even took power, like you can see that pretty much Valkyrie had already set up a little bit of a resistance force against the Baron, like from when the Baron was in charge. So yeah, obviously we're also still gonna need a little bit of a resolution for like the whole thing with basically Kurenai as well. And yeah, I can see, I wouldn't mind in that case of seeing both Homura and Valkyrie team up for that too. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I've got for this review. But yeah, guys, just tell me down below what you think of this chapter, because this was definitely another insane chapter, to be sure. I also, one thing too is that this is just clicking in me now too, but I think, but yeah, obviously but the other thing too is that because like we haven't dealt with pretty much with the resolution of pretty much Valkyries. We haven't dealt with the resolution yet of Homer like cutting ties with her mother, probably by the end of this. That's also another reason as to why I think that Valkyrie isn't dead yet. But yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and also Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.